The story surgeon is back. I recently created a visual for the plot cycle I created in one of my videos. I thought it would be helpful to implement it into older videos where it would be useful. First is my video on Naruto arc's plot structure. Each arc had several cycles. For the Land of Waves, the opening was a cat mission, which was a short cycle. The inciting incident is phase 1 of the overarching cycle for the arc. In the first act break, there is a Demon Brothers cycle and a Zabuza cycle, both of which are finished here. The midpoint is Kakashi realizing that Zabuza is still alive and that his students are too weak. The second act break has the tree climbing exercise, which is another cycle. And then there's the final battle, a cycle against Zabuza and Haku. When Gato is defeated, the cycle ends. The mission is completed soon after, ending the overarching cycle. This is from chapter 9 to 33, which is 25 chapters. Great pacing. How the 6 moments of a 3-act structure play into the plot cycle is interesting. What I noticed is that the opening can be its own small complete cycle, which I've seen in other movies before. The inciting incident is usually phase 1 of a new cycle, establishing the problem. The problem is usually an overarching one, with multiple mini-cycles within it to come. The first act break usually has multiple complete mini-cycles back to back. The midpoint is usually the third phase or aftermath of a cycle. The second act break has more back-to-back cycles, and the climax is the third phase of a cycle, like the midpoint. The same pattern can be seen in the following arcs or mini-movies. Next is my analysis on the York New City arc. At one point, I'm talking about how complex the plot is and how it doesn't have a formula. I can reinforce that by implementing the plot cycle. In a lot of battle manga, the main events that happen are usually fighting or training. In York New, there were various types of events, but they weren't just for show. They had cycles, giving them a solid impact on the plot. Going appraising was a cycle. Kurapika becoming a bodyguard was a cycle. The same goes for Chrollo getting the fortune-telling power, Gon and Killua being captured, and more. They were all problems that needed to be solved, and in some cases, their results had an impact later in the plot. Last is my vagabond critique. In chapter 1, the cycle starts in the first fight and ends when Takezo beats everyone. 1 chapter, 1 cycle, not bad. In chapter 2, there is no cycle. The cycle starts with phase 1, which is a character is faced with a problem. The murder of Akemi's father appears at the end, but there is still no problem yet. Chapter 3 has the same issue. There is no problem until the very end, where the gang shows up at the house. Chapter 4 is where the boss starts causing problems, and the cycle begins, which is why I said it was okay. Chapter 5 finished the cycle. Chapter 6 is the sex chapter, and once again, there is no cycle until the end. I don't count Matsuhashi smashing Oko as a problem or conflict. Bandits show up at the end, starting phase 1 of a cycle. Chapter 7 continues the cycle with Takezo fighting. Chapter 8 starts the cycle of Granny being a villain. Only phase 1 is started in this chapter, which is why I called it weak. Chapter 9, Takezo takes on his problem by hiding in the mountains and then trying to explain to Granny. Meanwhile, Otsu has her own mini-cycle of trying to reject Aoki. In chapter 10, Takezo has to deal with Granny's trap. As you can see, these chapters actually have cycles going on, albeit very slowly. Chapter 11 has fighting, continuing phase 2. In chapter 12, he's still dealing with the Granny problem, which I now notice is another issue. If you look at many other great manga, they can juggle multiple plot cycles and move through them quickly. Meanwhile, Vagabond has chapters that are mostly free of a cycle and chapters that drag on the second phase of one cycle for a long time. Otsu's cycle with Aoki continues in 12. In chapter 13, Takezo fights Kohei. Chapter 14 has Takuan dealing with Aoki. Chapter 15 has no progression on either of the cycles until the very end. Chapter 15 ends with Otsu finding Takezo, but chapter 16 barely adds anything to the plot. He passes out and there's some dialogue. The cycle only continues in 17, where Takezo is hanging from a tree, having failed his cycle. But then he just monologues. At the start of the chapter, the cycle finishes, but for the rest of the chapter, no cycle is started. This would be fine if this were the resolution or falling action of the arc, but it's not. In 18, Otsu vs Granny cycle starts, but doesn't enter phase 2 yet. In 19, Kohei comes at the end, which leads into him freeing Takezo in 20. Finally, there is a new cycle. Takuan takes Takezo into the forest to kill him, making another new cycle. 21 has Takezo choosing his place of death. The cycle ends in chapter 22 when Miyamoto is born. That Takuan cycle was good for Vagabond standards, but it took 3 chapters to do something that could have been done in 1. The Takezo vs Granny cycle went from 8 to 17, which is 10 chapters. As I said before, too many of these chapters didn't progress the cycle in meaningful ways. Chapters 1 to 21 make up the first 2 volumes, yet they're riddled with plot issues. Volume 3 is much better because the cycle versus the Yoshioka school is started early on, and almost every chapter is dedicated to progressing the cycle in a meaningful way, primarily through fighting. Musashi takes down enemies one by one, which keeps phase 2 of the cycle interesting. In conclusion, Yumesuke's plot cycle is spectacular. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and help me revolutionize the manga industry by buying my manga and spreading the word. All important links will be in the description.